I'm sure the value of having 10 books and the marketing power, it'll be 64 million.
Let me speak to that too, because the reason it will be that is because that's your intention and that's how you think. And that's exactly the way that someone can leverage a multiplier, or leverage a multiplier community, which is really a lot of Genius Network is a multiplier community. And it's a connection network, and you know how to connect the dots and turn them into results. Hello, this is Joe Polish.
And this is Dan Sullivan.
And here we are on video, on Zoom, 10X Talk. And Dan, so if you haven't gotten it already, Dan Sullivan and Ben Hardy have a brand new book called Who Not How, at least at the time we're recording this. It is doing really well. It is the formula to achieve bigger goals through accelerating teamwork. I've read the book and I've also listened to the audio version. And the cool thing about the audio version is Ben Hardy basically interviewed you after each chapter and tells the story of who, not how. This is a concept that came from our friend Dean Jackson. And then you, Dan, you actually took and just really have turned it into a whole process, which is now helping tens of thousands of people. Because how's the book doing right now?
Well, you were 4 weeks since the launch, and we're just, if you take everything into consideration, ebooks, hard copies, and Audible, we're in excess of 100,000 sales, and we made it to number 2 on the Wall Street Journal. Their ebooks, they have a separate ranking for ebooks. So we were number 2, right behind Matthew McConaughey, which I don't begrudge at all, because I think he's a Hollywood superstar who I think has got his head turned on right. He just strikes me as he knows who he is, he knows what his job is and everything, and he doesn't purport to be an expert on world affairs or politics, which I find very refreshing. Anyway, and the other thing is, we were on a Zoom call on Tuesday night with Reed Tracy, the publisher of Hay House, who I only met because I know Joe Polish. And the collaboration that put the book together, Ben Hardy and Tucker Max, I only am involved with because I know Joe Polish, and Dean Jackson, who originally came up with the idea of Who Not How. I only know that because of Joe Polish. So I'm trying to make a point here about what I rely on Joe for.
Yeah, which is great. I'm super happy because I love putting, look, I mean, that's what Genius Network is. It's a connection network. And when you can connect smart people together, they can take their creativity, they can take their skills, they can combine their unique abilities, and they can make magic happen. And then what happens as a byproduct of that is ideas and methodologies are put out into the world. And what it does is help who we both want to be a hero to, which is entrepreneurs. Help them build and grow their business. So yeah, one of the things before we started recording, we were talking about my upcoming sabbatical. And me and you have a few episodes. This is the first time I actually publicly announced it, was on a 10X Talk podcast, where I was talking about taking a sabbatical. And the idea came to me after a friend of mine who I've known for over 20 years, who I first heard the term ELF, easy, lucrative, and fun, from good friend of mine. I found out through his son that he, and I'd just spoken with him a couple days prior, they had found him in bed, dead at the age of 59 years old. He's worth many millions of dollars and very wealthy guy. Lived in another country, and something just occurred in my head saying, this whole idea of I want to really look at how people work and how I work, and this whole, I mean, I've been in strategic coach since 1997. If it was not for you, the whole concept of taking any time off would have been a foreign sort of concept to me. And so here you have been like probably the best, at least non-anonymous version of Workaholics Anonymous, right? Where people go to strategic coach and they hear about, wow, you can actually make more money and not just grow your income in your success, but most importantly, your engagement, your happiness, your connection in the world as a result of taking time off. And so this whole idea of a sabbatical, we have a mutual friend, David Bach, who's also been in strategic coach for many years. He gave a talk at one of my Genius Network annual events in 2015 on taking a sabbatical. And I had it floating around in my head, but I was never able to pull the trigger until the pandemic hit and this started. And with all the work I do in addiction recovery, I started having a lot of very successful people financially and successful in terms of well known in the world that were really struggling with addiction, because I get those phone calls. And it really made me think about my own life. And it made me think about, I have a lot of great, wonderful, amazing things going on. And I also have a lot of relationships and things that I want to disconnect from. And I have this sign on my wall that says, be willing to destroy anything in your life that's not excellent. And I was like, yeah, I think it's time. I think it's time for me to go and ponder. And you had made a comment, this is the ultimate form of who, not how. And that's what made me think, yeah, I'd like to hear your perspective on this too, because
Yeah.
when I first, and I'll say this and then I'll have you comment on what you think about this, Dan, but I did a very long call. I think we talked for almost 2 hours, me, you, and Babs, about my sabbatical. And I decided I'm not going to plan it until I start it. Now,
Yeah.
what I mean by that is, of course, in my brain, I'm planning different things and I'm
Sure.
thinking about it all the time. It's a great thing to say to people, though, because for one, it's true. I'm not making any serious plans. It's not like, let me go do a sabbatical so I can go travel somewhere, because at the time we're recording this, we're still in the midst of pretty crazy COVID and pandemic and election chaos and all the things that are going on in the world right now. So I don't know how easy it's going to be to travel. Secondly, this is more about so on the inside, less on the outside. It's not like I need to go somewhere, and I certainly will go somewhere. I will go to places. I will be changing environments and whatnot. But the bigger thing is what it's going to do for my mind, what it's going to do for my health, what it's going to do for my perspective. And so you've been a great sounding board, and by telling people that I'm not planning it till I start it, I don't have to give them an explanation, because everyone.
Well, I think that there's so much wisdom in your approach, and I know that other individuals like David Bach and Richard Rossi, who did his version of a sabbatical, and it was one of his big goals when he came into strategic coach, that he could take a year off with his children and actually go around the world. And they did that. And they did it in like 4 months and back for a month and 4 months. And, they did it. But I said, it's your deal. I mean, you'll do it. I mean, but I think a lot of people, I was just thinking of an analogy, the way a lot of people would do it. I'm going to go away and I'm not going to talk to anyone, and I'm not going to start anything new and everything like that. And I said, it never works when people do that. But I said, it's kind of like I'm going to climb Mount Everest, and the way I'm going to learn how to climb mountains is I'm going to go to Everest and I'm just going to start climbing. And I said, you may run into some capability problems, resource problems, experience problems if you do that.
Yeah.
You might die. and and I think the way you're doing it is really great, because it's entirely, it's kind of, you're acquiring entirely new knowledge, and there's going to be attitudes that you realize, I the thing that was preventing me from doing this was this attitude, and I'm noticing that another attitude's developing. So you get to compare your experience, and you can do that at a week at a time, or a month at a time, and just review what I've learned so far, and kind of use your actual experience for new learning that's going to propel you to the next step. And I think that's great. But on the other side of it is what's going to happen to Genius Network when you're not there, and that seems to be clear in your intention. And I think what that intention and the announcement that that Genius Network was either going to make it or not make it through the sabbatical year, and you were totally okay with either, gave
Yes.
an enormous amount of freedom for other people to say, well, we're going to make sure that when Joe comes back, Genius Network's going to be in great shape. So I'd like to start there, of how you actually get who's in your life. is that you create a project that's an exciting project, and you give them a chance to shine. I think that's how you get who's in your life. You're creating a space with you not being at Genius Network for other people to shine, and they're doing it for you. Uh, but they also want you to be proud of them when you come back.
Exactly. And that was evidenced by that we just did our annual event for the first time virtually, because I've always been doing these in person for over, a decade now. And what was great about it is at the very end, just the level of support, because I did talk at the very end. I don't actually think you were on at that part, Dan. And the outpouring of support was incredible. I mean, we actually went about uh, 40, 50 minutes over time just having the conversation about that and having people comment on it, which made me feel incredibly good.
Yeah.
And also, very, very, very happy to see what Genius Network has become. Because I've always said I don't want Genius Network to be known for me. I want it to be known for the people in the group.
Mm-hmm.
And I also want to say this. So I did give Richard Rossi credit. I've had conversations with David Bach about this. This is going on a couple months ago when I first decided, yep, I'm going to do this. I'm going to take a 1-year sabbatical. And I talked to Richard Rossi, and he, had shared what he had learned traveling around the world for a year with his family. And he was the one that said, don't plan it until you start it. And I frankly, what I didn't realize is how much work it is to set up taking a 1-year sabbatical. And so, there's a lot of things to set in place, right? And so in the midst of, I didn't want to consume my time with planning, what am I going to do? I just wanted to kind of set up what I needed to. And then once I take a year, I got plenty of time, right? I'll be able to do that. So Richard was really instrumental in helping solidify that sort of thinking. And so what I've set up, to answer your question, I started thinking, okay, I don't want Genius Network to be known for meetings. I want Genius Network to be known for results. I want people to come there and I want them to get a result. And what are some of the areas that they need results in? Well, certainly in the area of marketing, certainly in the area of communicating content. We have one of our 100K members. We have a $25,000 group, which is Genius Network, and then we have a $100,000 a year group, which is now it's been Genius X, but I've decided we're going to have Genius Network, the 100K version of Genius Network. And so, because like everyone kind of intermixes the names and everything, and so that's a whole nother conversation. But so in the 100K group, we have a member named Jason Fladlin, and something I've done for years, and all marketers do it. They just may not use this way to describe it. We're doing it right now by doing a podcast. Your book, Who Not How, is doing it. And so what is this thing I'm talking about doing? All these quarterly books that you have, Dan, this is doing it. Anything that you have to sell, any movement, any mission, any cause, any business that you want the world to be enrolled in, to buy from you, products, services, etc., you want to put information in front of it. So how do you put information in front of people so that when you do that, that information is valuable and they will either buy from you or they will continue to stay happy clients and refer other people to you? So I thought, okay, out of all the things that I want to put in front of people, how do I package up things that will provide results for my Genius Network members? So one of the first things that I didn't tell anyone this was one of the reasons I was doing it. I was just doing it because I thought it'd be really valuable. And it was, is I took my friend, and who's now a Genius Network member, BJ Fogg. Very few professors are entrepreneurial, and BJ Fogg wrote a book called Tiny Habits. And this year, it's been chosen as the #1 business book on Amazon, even though he never wrote the book as a business book. And it's a New York Times bestseller, and it's doing really well. And BJ has the behavior design lab at Stanford. And a lot of people have taken his methodology on behavior, which is B equals MAP. Behavior equals motivation, ability, and prompts. And all behavior, good behavior, bad behavior, good habits, bad habits, they can all be explained through motivation, ability, and prompts. That's what equals behavior. And so I thought, if I'm going to go on a sabbatical, I might as well get exact training on how to set up the behavior that I need to have in order to do a sabbatical. But all of our Genius Network members, everything that they deal with, all of us in life, is human behavior. Our own, our team members, our vendors, our clients, our collaborators. It's all behavior. So how do you design to get things done, including the things you want to do? So we did a 10-week training with BJ Fogg. And so BJ became, for lack of a better word, like a guest trainer in Genius Network. And we did it for 10 weeks. And I'd never done anything like that before. And about 25% of all Genius Network members were active during all 10 weeks. Now, about half of the members popped on to some live and then listened to the recordings. But we created this. It's now recorded. It's in the Genius Network membership site. But the beauty of it is they got to meet and learn from BJ. Now BJ's doing all these collaborations with Genius Network members, and BJ's will help with anything that I want. He's totally ecstatic. We're super happy. Great guy. So when I go on sabbatical, BJ, one of the top behavior design scientists and researchers in the world, is part of the faculty, right, of Genius Network. Then Evan Carmichael, this crazy YouTube guy that helps all of these influencers, many that I don't even really like him. And I say that jokingly to Evan. I'm like, boy, you're helping a lot of these jackasses become more famous. But Evan's like a really helpful, really bright, really nice guy. And so Evan is now in Genius Network. And so Evan we did literally a jam session during the annual event. And then we did a 4-week training. We went through a Genius Network members' YouTube channels saying, here's what to do for tags. Here's what to do for the beginning part of it. Here's how to measure analytics. Here's how to embed, a link in the middle of the video, at the end of the video. Here's how to use special codes so that when you send someone like a YouTube video, it has your playlist off to the right of YouTube instead of what YouTube is suggesting you watch based on your interest in their algorithms. We showed everyone how to literally send out any video, your own or any videos, and you can design what people see on the right side of any YouTube. And it blows people away. And this guy has close to 400 million views, and he has 2.6 million subscribers, and none of it was through paid traffic. It was all organic. So he learned how to make YouTube work, and he's been doing this for 11 years. So he swoops in, he teaches all the Genius Network members, and we just were showing what we have done in the last 3 weeks following his recommendations. I have, in some cases, doubled the amount of views I'm getting on YouTube videos, some that are as old as 9 years ago. It's crazy. And so that's really valuable. And then we have, we just did, I'm trying to think of the new trainings that we have come. Of course, Dean Jackson. I came up with this model of how we can have all of our Genius Network members put together a small book. And Dean Jackson is incredible at teaching people how to market with small books, because it's less about the book and more about the topic or the subject that your company has a result for. And so I have this website, joesfreebook.com. And when someone goes to joesfreebook.com, they can download for free my book, Life Gives to the Giver. They don't have to buy anything. Currently, it doesn't put anyone into like an upsell funnel that here's a sort of book that we're going to give you the illusion that it's decent, but we're going to try to like lock you into some sort of membership site. And I don't have any problem with people doing upsells. There's just some marketers that use this as I think, overly aggressive way to just, suck people in and then try to lock them into subscription services. And again, I want to, with a caveat, there's nothing wrong with upselling people in anything if what you offer is really valuable. I think a lot of, we're teaching people, here's how to make what you're doing so valuable that you build rapport, people opt in, you build a platform. It's not about a book. The book is just the seed. Yeah. It's just what you put out. You're putting information out. But like Who Not How, your goal, and it's even written in the book, your goal with Who Not How is to sift, sort, and screen the right
500. We want 500 coach clients from the book.
Exactly.
And yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. But according to their ambitions and it's got to fit. What we're offering here is we want it to fit. One of the things Dean Jackson has this great concept of cheese or whiskers that he talks about, and he says, mice, they lead very, very brief lives, and they lead very precarious lives. So they've got their entire logic system down to just screening out one of two, screening for one or two experience. Is it cheese or is it whiskers? And something can look like cheese, but there seems to be some whiskers with it, and some whiskers are presented as if they're cheese, but it's not good. It's not good for mice. It's not beneficial for mice. And I think in the world that we have each entered into independently, but we've collaborated more and more, Joe. There's a lot of people who are creating really good stuff that are really good for people, good methods, good resources, and everything. But there's probably a fair amount more than average for an industry of fraud. I mean,
Yes.
it's just fraud, and the reason is it's fundamentally an unregulated industry. I mean, there anybody can have access to the internet. Anybody can put together, a presentation that might be very, very compelling on the internet. So there's no screening of this. There's no course you have to go through to get a certification which says you're allowed to do this. And may it always be that way. I mean, I'm not doing it, but the thing about it is that I've just been, but not even, it's not even so much the fraud, but they have a whisker type mentality. They have a whisker type mentality is that I'm going to give you some free stuff, but my real goal is to capture you for life and not let you go,
Right.
and everything like that. And it's scarcity. I mean, the whole thing is that it's just comes from, there isn't much opportunity out there, and I'm in competition with everybody else, and I got to get mine. And I don't think I've ever really had that in any degree, but it just seems to me that my experience with not acting that way, and my experience of having really incredibly, 100% win-win relationships with a growing number of people tells me it just seems like foolish thinking, that you would approach life that way. I mean, it's just silly. I said, not only is it stupid, but I mean, not only is annoying and it kind of makes you a little bit angry. I said, but it's just really silly. Why the person's got talent, they got skill, and we have one person in common because we both involved the legal profession in it. And I said, the thing I don't realize is it's just silly on this person's part what they did. I said, there was no need for it. They're talented. They have lots of knowledge, which if they allowed it to come out of them and actually package it and give a thing, they do just fine. But it's the scorpion and the turtle. The story of the
Scorpion the
scorpion.
frog. Yeah. Well, I guess it could be a turtle too. Yeah.
Yeah, or frog. The scorpion. A frog is going down a river and says, psst, psst, and it's a scorpion on the side of the river. And he says, "Could you carry me across to the other side?" And the frog says, "What? Me, a frog, carry you, a scorpion, to the other side?" He says, "No, I won't." And he said, "Why not?" And he says, "Because you'll bite me halfway across." He says, "Why would I do that? I want to get to the other side." And the frog says, "Okay, I'll do it." And halfway across, he feels this sharp pain in his neck, and he said, "What'd you do? Why'd you bite me?" He says, "It's my nature."
Yeah, exactly. We're both going to drown, but yeah, that's what they do.
It's my
Well,
nature, and I think it happens. I mean, metaphorically, they both drown. I mean, they don't do well, and the reputation goes around that avoid getting involved with any kind of relationship with this type of person.
well, yeah, and so, well, look, here's the evidence of if you know that you are overly aggressive, just look at your reputation. I mean, do people do people like you? Do they talk shit about you on the internet? Are are you leaving scorched earth? Do you have a ton of complaints? Do people say, I was promised something and they never delivered on it. I mean, if you're going to do big things in the world, you're going to, unfortunately, you're going to come across crazy people that no matter what you do are going to,
Mhm.
blame you for their lack of success. However, you got to look at the sheer numbers of it. And if you look at the years of great reputation with Strategic Coach, I mean, I would even say with me. I mean,
Oh
I'm
yeah, totally.
yeah, I'm in an industry filled with people that are frankly kind of scummy marketers, and like my buddy Harvey McKay, he wrote a book called How to Swim with the Sharks Without Being Eaten Alive. I mean, you go into the industry of publishing books and speaking or whatever, you're going to run into a lot of sharks. The question is, like, what's your reputation? And so I think it takes years to build a great reputation and a moment of stupidity to destroy it. Well, it also takes many constant little stupidities to build a lifetime of a bad reputation. And so a lot of these people aren't making a mistake once, they just don't care. And so anyway, so the point is with taking all of this marketing, me and you tend to attract, I think, a very high quality member and client because of the way we market and the way that we bring
Well,
value, and we speak to this. I think we, not that they can't sneak in and don't try to get into our world. The people that are scummy, they come into our worlds trying to steal what we do. And then there's other people that come into our worlds because they're genuinely wanting to grow and build their companies. They want to be around really smart people. They're smart themselves. They want to be contributors. And the very best Genius Network members don't just come to learn something. They actually come to help. They come to be contributors. And I think that's the commonality between our clients is they're filled with a lot of givers, and they're filled with a lot of talented individuals. And so what I'm doing to prepare for my sabbatical is I'm like, all right, I've got this incredible group of talented people. It's a connection network. What are the results that they want? And so you have this DOS conversation, which is dangers, opportunities, and strength. And you have this R factor question that I've learned from the day I started Strategic Coach, where you ask people, if we were to meet a year from today, what needs to happen both personally and professionally for you to feel happy with your progress. So for the last several months, I've been asking our members in ways, a lot of them, we just ask them questions, even during my annual event. What do you want? Before the annual event, me and Dean Jackson did a special training on how to prepare for the annual event. And we asked people to type into the chat, what is it that they want? And then I designed our annual event and the entire year of curriculum that I'm going to be gone on sabbatical to deliver
wow.
results based on the DOS of our clients. So
Yeah.
I took your DOS conversation, which you teach Strategic Coach members, utilize this to help identify, because once COVID hit, same people, but their DOS changed. All of a sudden they had different dangers, different opportunities, and we have to utilize their strengths in order to help them reach their opportunities. Because as you say, people are not going to reach their opportunities until you help them eliminate their real dangers and their psychological dangers.
Yeah.
And so now there's cash flow dangers that didn't exist before COVID for many companies. And so I'm now having Strategic Coach methodology in terms of finding out what my Genius Network members want, and then we package it and deliver it, and it's done and curated through other members. And so Dean Jackson is doing this whole training. Not only are we teaching people, and we're recording all this, so any new members that come in have access to all of this knowledge, and it's all there in the membership site. And so Dean is going to be doing training the whole year on this free book thing. And so I went and registered URLs for every Genius Network member that we could capture their name for a free book. And that's part of being in Genius Network. And we're setting up the websites, and we're setting up the systems and the databases. So they're not just, and we're showing them exactly how to put together a book, a short, simple book, how to do it as effectively as possible. So it's a really good book, not with a bunch of different topics, but on a specific topic. Dean's training that. I'm doing that until my sabbatical starts, because I've done already 2 of the trainings with Dean. And then Chris Voss, I wish I could even speak to this on this podcast, but today Chris Voss, he came to my house last week when he was in town. I had Mark Tarbell actually make dinner for us, which was super cool. He won Iron Chef. And Chris is like, he's like, people, he's been so involved as a speaker in Genius Network that people thought he was a member, and he had not become a member yet. And he's like, man, I need to join Genius Network. I've gotten so much value. And he shows up wearing a Genius Network shirt. He's great. I love Chris. And he's the former FBI hostage negotiator. He was the top international FBI hostage negotiator in the world. And he wrote a book called Never Split the Difference, which is now sold over 1 million copies. And it's the top negotiation book in the world. And so Chris is incredibly bright. And so he's like, I got to join Genius Network. I look at all these he even said, he goes, I met Dan Sullivan through you. I met this person. And Chris is just really cool. And so I'm like, would you be part of the faculty? He's like, I would love that. I'd love that. So Eunice is talking with him today about being part of the faculty for the 100K group and for Genius Network to teach our members the very best negotiation methodologies that he's learned. And so, yeah, when people ask who's going to run Genius Network, I'm like, it's going to be run by the awesome members. That's who's going to run Genius Network.
Yeah, and the thing that's going to develop out of it, and I'll give you an example of long time ago. This is during the 90s. I had a client who was deeply involved in, he was a financial advisor, but very successful financial advisor. And he was involved in Latter-day Saints, the Mormon church. And he had, those who know LDS, they don't really have a clergy as such. They have people who, are prominent in the community, and they take responsibility for the various activities that let the church grow. And he came to me one day, and I've always had a lot of very, very successful entrepreneurs in the program who are also members of LDS. And my knowledge of this goes back 30 years before the conversation. And he said, I've been asked by, the top members in the church in Salt Lake City if I would take 3 years off and go to Brazil and be in charge of the missions, the missions to spread the faith in Brazil and also bring in new members. And I said, so, I'm guessing that you said yes. And he said, yes, I did. And he says, but the question is, how can I do it? I have a company. And he says, when we're on a mission like that, we can't be back in touch with we might call once during the 12 months, but we can't be doing that. And he says, I'm going to have to take family members with me. So I said, well, if you say yes, when do you have to go? And he said, well, I'm talking to you early. He says, it's a year from now. And I says, good. He said, let's do a strategy circle, which is, a very fundamental thinking tool in coach. And what it does is say that when he gets to the leave date, before he leaves for Brazil, this is going to be true. All these things are going to be true about how he's taking care of the company so that the company can, exist when he comes back 3 years from now. Okay. So he does it and leaves a year later, has his strategy circle, communicates with all his team, puts it in place and everything else, comes back 3 years later. And the company has grown 25% each year. So it was double the size when he got back. And two things about it, Joe. It was double the size and very profitably, but there wasn't any work for him because all the work had been taken up by other people. So he says, well, he was a city-based, they had an area, but it was based on a single city. And so he said, I'm going to make this a regional company. So in the next 4 or 5 years, they had like 5 offices in different cities. And again, they had grown. And one day he said, can I talk to you afterwards? And I said, sure. And he said, and he had a big smile on his face. And he said, I need another one of those strategy circles. And I said, okay, what was the phone call about this time? And he said they'd actually like me just to devote the rest of my life to growing the church. I said, they give you a year? And he said, yeah, they gave me a year. I said, okay, let's do another strategy. I mean, I said, it worked last time. Why wouldn't it work this time? And the big thing was now is that he was giving up the company, because he wouldn't be there. And what he achieved out of that is his company agreed to him that for the rest of his life, they would give him an amount of money equal to his best year, and then they would own the company. But every year for the rest of his life, the company, as long as it existed, and it's still in existence, would pay him out the biggest amount that, it was equal to the biggest amount that he had ever received. And now he's like, I see a picture every once in a while of leading the leading contributors and the top leaders, and he's right there, and like every 2 or 3 years I see him, he's moving up. But the whole point is that he took into account everything that his company had to be ready for the first time, and then of course the second time. And I tell this story. I said, if you give yourself the right amount of time and you do the right type of communication, you can pull off anything in the world, as long as you're willing to trust other people, that they'll take it seriously, and they'll do their best so that you feel happy about the experience.
Exactly. I love that. I mean, the wheels are turning in my head with you telling that story as it relates to my own team right now. I mean, I won't say exactly because I have to think about it, but that's really interesting. And you taught me the concept of strategic byproducts, that when you pursue a goal, and the example I always use all the time with people is if you're going to run a marathon, right? If you decide you're going to be in a Spartan race, or you're going to do some physical activity, and it's 6 months from now, and you have to, prepare physically for, something that will require endurance, as an example. Well, then all of a sudden you start eating differently. You might change your sleep schedule. You may quit, drinking alcohol with your friends or whatever. And all of these things happen off to the side, which you call strategic byproducts. And so when I go on my sabbatical, I'm looking for the strategic byproducts. But even what you just explained, I realized when I first heard that from you, that my entire life, of all the things that have really been the biggest breakthroughs, were never the initial goal. They were all the strategic byproducts of pursuing a goal. But I paid attention to the things that happened off on the side. And by paying attention to it, I was able to develop stuff. And, I keep having people ask me, well, are you going to quit thinking about business and stuff? Are you going to not do anything business wise? And I said, look, my brain is my brain. I mean, I can't say exactly what I'm not going to tell my brain, even if I did tell my brain, do not think about business. Do not think about what you spent, since literally, how long have I been in business now? I mean, I've had my own company for over 30 years now, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's, I started literally in my very early 20s, my own company. And so I certainly have all kinds of ideas and stuff. There's just certain things I won't act on. It's similar to that. Remember that movie, A Beautiful Mind, where he said, he would see other people, but I just learned to ignore them, right?
No, the great scene is where the representatives of the Nobel Prize come to announce to him that, and would he accept the prize? So they come from Oslo or Stockholm. I don't know where the center of this is, and they come, and he shows his new skill because he's got somebody with him, and so they're talking to him, and he turns to his friend. He says, Are there actual people here that I'm talking to?"
Yeah, exactly.
He says, I'm hearing some things. People are talking to me. I just want to check out that they're actually real,
Yeah. Yeah. It's so in a way, I'm certainly going to have, I'll certainly have ideas and stuff. And that's fine. Ideas can come, but I'm not going to do business. And I also made a commitment that if someone offered me $100 million to not go on a sabbatical, I would not take the money.
Yep.
And do I want $100 million? Of course. I mean, however, I had to do that as sort of a game with myself to say, no, I'm not going to be bought here. This is about me. This is about things will open up and it's going to be amazing. And I mean, and even now,
Well, the other thing is you'll get the 100 million anyway. So
exactly. And here's a guaranteed way.
no, I mean,
is to violate.
I mean, if I just take my own experience with, Genius Network, the 25X program. So I'm in the program for 1 hour, and during the first hour, you announce to everybody that, look, if you don't get an idea out of this year's program, that's not 10 times worth the 25,000. In other words, you don't get a $250,000 return for this. I'm not going to let you back into the second year because you're not appropriate for Genius Network. And I tell that story and I let you use it for the marketing of the 100X program. And I said, well, I got a little update here because Babs and I were in for 5 years, 25X, and now we're moving up to 100X, and we did 5 times 25, each of us. So it was 250,000. And I said, based on the return that we got from an idea I got in the first hour of the 10X program, because when you said that, I'd been thinking over the years about a program that actually used 10X, but right after that first workshop, I went back and I created the 10X program. And at the time we went to 100X, we had made $16 million from that initial idea. And I said, 250 into 16 million, that's 64 times. I said, okay, well, 100X, it's 4 times as much. So in the first 5 years, it'll be kind of like $1 million for the two of us. So 1 million times 64. So I said, I'm expecting 64 times return on my $1 million investment. And during the first meeting I was there, you asked me to get up and explain the who, not how concept. And I go back at a break, and this young man comes up to me and he says, hi, I'm Ben Hardy. And he said, that is an amazing idea. And I'm a book writer. And if you would be willing, I'd work with you to write this book and get it out as a major market book. And I sat there and I said, well, it took longer this time. It was the first hour last time. I said, but it's okay. And a week ago we signed a 10-book contract with Hay House. So every October there's going to be a new book launch. Who Not How is the first one. And Tucker said, I didn't know Tucker. I mean, I knew who Tucker was, but he wasn't part of the deal. But all that developed simply because I said to Ben, I said, you're on. And but I'm sure the value of having 10 books and the marketing power, it'll be 64 million.
Let me speak to that too, because the reason it will be that is because that's your intention and that's how you think. And that's exactly the way that someone can leverage a multiplier, or leverage a multiplier community, which is really a lot of Genius Network is a multiplier community. And it's a connection network, and you know how to connect the dots and turn them into results. And so when someone can come into something with a achievement mindset, with a growth mindset, with the ability to look at the capabilities that are available to them and add those capabilities to their capabilities, then all of a sudden that's what you do. And so the people that can't come in and hear a $250,000 idea, for one, they're not looking for it. Secondly, for some reason, their brains, they don't have the ability to do it. And I think the very best distinction with you and many other people, which I used to think, and this may sound pessimistic, I actually used to think all people sort of had this ability, and through experience, a lot of people just cannot look at things as an investment. They look at them as a cost. And when someone looks at Genius Network as a cost, they don't look for $250,000 ideas. They look for all the ways of how they're going to get their 25,000 back. And I mean, I remember kicking one person out of the only person we ever had to kick out of the 100K group. He was a guy who never went through Genius Network first. And we would say, no, you need to spend at least a year or two in Genius Network. And then he's like, no, I'm ready. I'm going to do that. And this guy ended up like just being a massive taker. And I literally gave him his money back. And I said, you couldn't pay me $1 million to let you in this program. You're just a jerk. And it was probably the most vocal I've ever gotten towards someone. But the thing about it though, is you are an investment mindset. So you look how to get a return on stuff, which is why you interact with so many different forms of learning and seem to extract more juice than most people, because you can ask the question, is the juice worth the squeeze? Or you can say, how can I squeeze the juice out of it? Is it there? And if some things aren't valuable,
Yeah.
I mean, we've all made bad investments, right? I mean, and everything is not right for everybody. But we're doing a thing now this year called Return on Genius, and we're actually asking our members to track what results they're getting.
I would be happy to contribute to that discussion. Like if you wanted me as, just to walk through, and I could actually do a diagram. I mean, I could put it into a thinking process for people to actually think. Because
I would love that.
Yeah, because the whole point is that I would brain my concept is that your eyes only see and your ears only hear what your brain is looking for. And I was looking for 10 times the first time, and then I got the results and it was 64 times rather than 10 times. And I said, okay, 64, we'll do 64 where the investment is bigger, but and so when Ben came up and talked to me, I just went saying, wow.
Mm-hmm.
I said, wow. I said, here it is. Here it is. And it took us a year, and then we had to include other people in the partnership and in the collaboration. And then you, very conveniently for me, set up one of the Genius Network's quarterlies, where all the players were there. Ben was there, Tucker Max was there, Reed Tracy, and they went out to dinner. The three of them went out, and the conversation was about Strategic Coach and how this was going to be a big author for Hay House and everything. And Babs and I went home and went to sleep. We came back in, and Ben said, "I think we got it." He says, "This is the right, this is the right publisher." And Tucker said, "Yeah, I think this is, and."
And you know what? And that's it, Dan. I mean, it really boils down to, because you're that way, I'm able to operate the way I am. And by both of us operating that way, we both help each other. We're both useful to each other. We're both appreciative of each other. We both help each other build our goals. And here we are doing a podcast together, which was the very first podcast that you started, talking about all of this stuff. Because once you come up with good collaborations, good methodologies, great ideas, I mean, it makes business way more enjoyable. And there's great clients, and there's people that can be problem children. And whenever you have great clients and you have great collaborations, it's similar to the conversation we were having on a previous podcast where you're talking about your mother, the most special one who got special treatment. Well, special treatment towards each other begets more results and more.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm a number 5 child, and all the conventional spaces and activities are taken up by the time I'm number 5. And I just got really, really clear real early that be useful to mom.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Like I have my assistant Eunice, who has been my assistant now for 25 years. She's just an amazing human. and we have a great relationship. And I'm sure over the years, I mean, I joke with her all the time. How many times has she ever gone home and probably wanted to kill me, right? There was something that, and we still just have an enormous amount of support and love and respect for each other, and have each other's backs and stuff. And, I've given Eunice several cars while she's worked for me. And the last car I gave her was a Tesla. And some people are like, well, why'd you give your assistant a Tesla? Why would you buy her a car? And I'm like, because she never asked for one and she earned it, but if she was like hitting me up all the time, yeah, like with an entitlement attitude, I wouldn't. Like, she goes out of her way to make sure that the company's protected. She goes out of her way to, I mean, she
Well,
just,
she's a collaborator. She's a collaborator, I mean, yeah, yeah.
exactly.
You
So,
see, an employee, I never ever use the word employee.
mhm.
They're team members. We're a team. I've got unique capabilities. They got unique capabilities. Um, Nothing I do would work if I don't have their unique capabilities and everything like that. They're not employees. But here's the truth of it. One of my capabilities is having a big vision for the company. One of my capabilities is to have a partnership with Bab Smith. And one of my capabilities is that we got really unique, unusual clients that we can do collaborations with.
Right.
And I said, and nobody else in the company has these capabilities. So these are my capabilities.
Yeah, it's great. That's it. And so to go back to the to who not how, and to go back to sabbatical, one thing I'll say is based on. So I'll just let people, while we're recording the podcast, let them in on how I will hear something that you said during this, and what I will do with it as a follow up. Is, so you said, I'd love to put together some tools and some training for Genius Network members, and take everyone through a thinking process. So as soon as I hear something like that, the way my collaborative brain works, and the way that me and Dan work with each other, is he makes an offer to do something, which he's more skilled at doing this than anyone I know. He hears me talk about something that, based on the value I got from me, he's like, yeah, I can go and teach how I got this 64 times return and how I'm thinking about it. And my brain immediately goes, that's a great concept. Now, everyone that's listening to this podcast, if you heard that and say, okay, how do I apply that? How do I apply that type of thinking that Dan just did there in order to get a 10 times return? Because this is called 10X Talk. I mean, that's the name of this podcast. And Dan just talked about how to get a 64 times return, right? Which is bigger than, but the reason that he was able to do it is because that's how he thinks and that's how he behaves. And then, so you're offering to do that. My brain is immediately like, all right, before I go on this sabbatical, let me check with your team. Let's find a time.
Yeah, I mean,
and let's schedule it. And what'll happen is we'll take that to all of our Genius Network members. And then I'll be able to go on my sabbatical knowing that Dan help them think about how to get a great return on Genius Network, which makes the group better. That's just how we help each other. That's what we do. And that's what we've been doing for years. And that's why, I'm the number one referring person to Strategic Coach, and Dan's the number one referring person to Genius Network. And we both pay each other to be in each other's programs. We're not doing some affiliate program like some of these marketers. The only reason they're promoting other people's stuff is because they owe them favors, or that, oh, you promoted my stuff, so now I got to promote stuff, even if it's not a right fit for my clients. And we don't even ever have to play those games, because we just, authentically do stuff that we think is going to be useful.
Yeah. Well, again, we had a previous podcast where we talked about envy, and and there's a usual explanation is this person was envious because, and I said there's no because, they're just envious. And we're collaborative, and I think the reason is because we create collaborations because both of us are collaborative people. That's the how do these collaborations come about? Well, you take a collaborative person here, you put a collaborative person, put them together, you get bigger collaboration. Well, but why does that happen? It happens because you had two collaborative people and you put them together.
Exactly. Yeah, you can't throw in a piece of crap into pure water and have it be pure water. I mean, it has to be, it has to be able to mix. And so, yeah, there's a real. So the point is, the reason I said that is there's a lot of people that try to treat collaboration like it's a technique. It's
Yeah.
it, it's not a technique. It's who you are. You're either collaborative or you are not. Can you develop yourself to be that way? Certainly. I mean, is it hard? Yeah. Do most people do it? No. I've been in addiction recovery long enough to where I've actually seen people that have been pretty bad in some areas of their life, but they have, through recovery, have worked through the trauma, worked through the craziness, and you see a really good person that in some part in their life has done bad things. And so yes, you certainly could learn this as you go out into the world. It's much easier though if you just simply find collaborative people, than, than to try to take some jerk and turn them into an authentic
Yeah.
person.
It's really interesting, the who, not how concept. There's a question that comes up in coach, and you've been there when the question has come up. And I talk about, they say, well, you're surrounded by all these great people because our team members. I mean, we've got 110 people, and 75 of them have been with us for more than 10 years, and we have 25 more than 20 years. And they said, where do you find people like this? And I said, it's kind of like the wrong question. It's really the wrong question. And they said, well, where I live, we don't have people out there like this. And I said, well, you don't know that. And I says, here's the truth of the matter. There's great people everywhere. The big question is, are they looking for someone like you?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. Such a key point. Exactly. Exactly. I mean,
I said, you may be meeting them at Starbucks. I mean, they may be right with you in the line at Starbucks. They may, and everything, they're a thing. But there's nothing about you that would tell them that, gee, there's a person who's really interested. I'm interested in what this person doing. Because you're not presenting yourself as being interested in anything except yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. No, exactly. It's such a good point. And so what I'll say, Dan, how should we wrap this one up? There's so much stuff here that you talked about. I would recommend, I do want everyone to go read Who Not How. It is a great book. We did a session with Dan and Ben where we had over 660 people live on it, and it absolutely was a game changer. And the comments were, I mean, just even in that hour of talking about the book, people were incredibly impacted. And so this is a concept that will help you. It's a concept that I couldn't even do my sabbatical if I wasn't utilizing Who Not How. Mm-hmm. And the beauty of it is right in the middle of a pandemic and some of the craziest year of my entire lifetime, there's a lot of who's that are out there. And to your point, how did they know you exist? And what we started this conversation with is how are you putting information out in front of people so they know about it? Are you doing it in the form of a book? Are you doing it in the form of a podcast? And if you want to see the models, there's a Who Not How website. Is it whonothow.com?
Mm-hmm. Yep. whonothow.com. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I have joesfreebook.com, and then even my movie. So one of the things before I go on a sabbatical, it's like, well, how do we put things out into the wild that people learn about me, learn about my organization, learn about Genius Network? So we're going to release my movie. I haven't figured out exactly the model yet, but it's going to be soon because I've literally got only a few weeks to do this. And I'll set up some stuff, and then my team will take it over after I go on sabbatical, but connectedthemovie.com. And if anyone wants to see the movie, at the time me and Dan are recording this, we have not publicly released it, but we're going to. And it's connectedthemovie.com. And so we'll have information about, what it is. And one of my members anonymously put that together till we found out who it was. And that all started because I helped fund and came up with the idea to do a documentary on Dan. And then the guy watched the movie on Dan, which is called Game Changers, a movie about Dan Sullivan, and decided he wanted to have Nick Nanton, who's now won 16 Emmys. He went up to him at one of my conferences and said, I want to do a movie on Joe. And I didn't even know who it was until a year later. After. Yeah.
Because all of us had said, well, we'll be happy, to fund the film. And they said, it's already taken care. Nick said, it's already taken care of. But he wouldn't tell who it was. He just, no. And he says, it's already taken care of, So we didn't know about it before you knew about it.
Okay, yeah, which was funny. And here's the point. That individual I actually met through you. You referred that.
He's a longtime coach client. Yeah.
Yep, Devon Patel. And so the thing is what happens in collaborations is they keep on working. It's just a bunch of people that life gives to the giver and takes from the taker. And so I think the biggest thing is, and so now I'm going to go and literally immerse myself in music and art and recovery work and health and perspective. And yeah, I'm gonna be following at a very deep level the stuff that you've been teaching people for many years, Dan, which is how to take care of themselves. And so, ultimately, we're all the $1 million racehorses. So those are my thoughts. If there's any other famous
No,
last
no, it was a great discussion, and I was really interested, in being on the faculty of Genius Network, but I wanted to have sort of a specific thing I could go after right away, and it came up during this talk, and I said, "Gee, that's good. I can do that."
And by the way, here's how much here's, and I'll just say this for everyone listening. For the rapport that I have with Dan. First off, Dan has coached more successful entrepreneurs than anyone in the world. I'm not going to tell him how to do his. He already knows how. And Dan always is involved. Every annual event, everything. He's got a new tool. He's got a concept. He's got something that he's sharing. And so, yeah, Dan, you have pretty much free reign to teach and deliver anything that you want, because there are people that have earned the right to promote and to offer their things. And there's some people that try to be like, hey, let me try to be helpful, but they're just trying to be helpful so they can try to sell their stuff. And then there's other people that have things that they sell that are valuable that are just simply trying to be helpful. And I love it, because those are the people, yeah, go ahead and teach. And if you got something that will be helpful to them, tell people about it.
Yeah.
And then it never comes across as a sales pitch, because everyone knows those sort of individuals are authentically helping them, and they just set it up, and then people naturally will want to say, well, what more? And so, yeah, I'd love to have whatever way you want, whatever you want to teach, you got free game. So thank you. And then I'll say to all of the people watching, if you have not yet subscribed to 10X Talk, go to 10xtalk.com, or wherever you listen to podcasts, and subscribe. And all the show notes and links to everything that we talked about related to this interview, including any links we talked about here, Dan's book, Who Not How, you can go to the website and it'll be linked there. And
Joe and I appreciate when you pass on 10 Times Talk to other people, because the actual producer of this right now, who's my podcast manager, who I only have because about 10 years ago, Joe taught me how to do podcasts. And so I kind of went a little bit wild. So I've got 10 podcast series, but Gord Vickman, who's our manager, says that 10 Times Talk is in the top 2% of all podcast series in the world. And there are 1 million, at least, podcast series in the world. So we're in the top 2%. So and it came from people just sharing the type of thinking and how we talk to each other, to people. They said, I think I have a friend who will resonate with these kind of ideas. So that's how podcasts grow. It's based on something that appeals to you, that somebody that you think it'll appeal to them.
Yep. Love it. Thank you. Yep. So if you found this useful, share it and make sure you keep listening. And if you've not listened to, if you're brand new to 10X Talk when you're hearing this, go back and listen to some of the original episodes. It's literally it will teach you so much and help you so much. It's such a valuable listening to Dan. And of course, the benefit of it is this is we both help each other, and when we have these conversations, it just grows and we're able to share them with others. So thank you so much, Dan. I really appreciate it.